Why some Pokemon booster boxes have stopped moving in price. We're going to discuss that and a few other on-topic issues in today's video. Forgive the polo, I've come straight from the golf course. Straight from the golf course to Pokeod's studio. And speaking of the studio, you might have noticed things have changed a little bit. If you're a regular here, it's been like this the last couple of videos, but we thought we'd update the studio a fair bit and make it a little bit more inviting and a little bit more personable. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Michael, this is Pokeod's. We talk all things Pokemon card investing here. So let's jump into some, I guess, current trends around the Pokemon investing space. So we're going to talk about booster boxes, why some of them have stopped moving, why some have actually moved more than others. We're also going to talk about, or start off with a really important one, and this isn't I told you so movement, because I certainly got this wrong to a degree, and I'm happy to fall on my sword with that, but it's the Mega Charizard from Phantasmal Flames. This is one of the biggest chase cards, if not the most talked about or hyped up chase card from the Mega Evolution block so far. It's not the most expensive. The Trikachu, as people have named it, and of course the Mega Gengar from Ascended Heroes are more expensive, but this Mega Charizard, it's taken the community by storm. The artwork is phenomenal. We don't need any more conversation about that. What the conversation is about its PSA 10 population and its PSA 10 price. So if we talk about that first, there are some singles, including this one, that are actually seeing a little bit of a downward trend in price. And that's rare, because at the moment, we've been riding the coattails of one of the longest bull markets the Pokemon collecting, investing market space has almost ever seen. It has been absolutely bonkers the last 18 months to 2 years, and it probably shows no sign of slowing down moving into the 30th anniversary and what seems to be a Rayquaza-based set coming into the forefront after that. So why are some booster boxes, why are some chase cards actually seeing a reduction in price? This Charizard, there's a few things here. I've talked about this for a while, and the part that I got wrong is actually how much demand this card would see. I predicted its raw price to dip, and it did the opposite. It went up. Look, it's dipped a little bit lately, but the big dip here is the PSA 10 price. Those are my two predictions when this first came out. I was like, when this came out, people were paying $5,000-$6,000 for a PSA 10 copy. I said, just don't. Like, yes, there'd only been a few hundred graded and a few hundred reported, but it looked like its gem rate was somewhere around 60%. And I was like, just do not pay $5,000 to $6,000 for a PSA 10 copy of this card, unless for whatever reason you need to be one of the first people in the world to have it. Like, if you can't wait a few months or 6 months or 12 months, I mean, some people need it. Some people need the card straight away in a PSA 10 copy straight in the collection and are happy to pay overs for it, but that was way too dear. My predictions were the raw price would come down and the PSA 10 price would come down, because the pull rates were just too easy. Phantasmal Flames was getting printed very heavily. Like, even though it was hard to find on shelves, it was still not short printed. It was printed really heavily. Like all modern sets, they're getting really, really big first waves. And then we're going, well, where's the reprint? It's because everyone's eaten up the supply early for popular sets. But it's not because they're short printed. It's just because there's so much demand for the hobby that massive first print wave is being eaten up so quickly. There's more people that want a slice of the pie. So with all that being said, we knew that pull rates of around 1 in 400, which is about twice as hard as Obsidian Flames Charizard. And I talk about singles, I talk about the rarity of them being important. I talk about what Pokemon being in them is important. And then I talk about how important the artwork is to the price of the card. Those are the three things, in my opinion, that make up the raw price of the card. The artwork, the Pokemon, and the pull rates. And this has a Charizard. It arguably is the greatest Charizard artwork we've seen, but the pull rates are still relatively easy. So that almost anchored this card from being super expensive. Like, imagine if this was 1 in 1,500 packs rather than 1 in 400 packs. This would be a north of $2,000 card, in my opinion, as a raw copy. So this was bound to happen. And with PSA 10 population soaring through the roof, it's over 25,200 PSA 10 copies. We can see the graded prices dip down to a collective average of 2,141, with many sales actually lower than that. There's been some sales underneath 2,000 US dollars in a PSA 10. The pop for this will rise. Like, think about the backlog at PSA. PSA have said how many cards are on backlog. It's millions and millions of cards on backlog waiting to be graded. There's so many of these Mega Charizards sitting at PSA waiting to be graded. This will have a population, in my opinion, maybe nudging towards 50,000 when all's said and done. What's the PSA 10 price going to be then? In my opinion, and here's the one, this is probably the one, I don't invest in singles because I think they're too volatile. They can make you insane gains, and there have been some vintage holos, some vintage low population, rare cards, some of the gold stars. We know, we've seen the footage of them, we've seen the posts about them that, you know, might have been worth 1,500 in a PSA 10 2 years ago, and are now worth 15 grand or 25 grand. So singles can make you or net you insane profits, but they can also lose you value. And for me, you know, I love investing in Pokemon cards, but I'm also a very, I suppose, reserved and safe investor. I don't want to have the risk of pumping in tens of thousands of dollars or something into something and it possibly, you know, possibly losing half of it. Sealed investing, I wouldn't say you're guaranteed the win, but long term you sort of are, because it's a deflationary asset, especially if you're buying something around launch. Like, you just can't really go wrong. Maybe if you're buying a Skyridge booster box for, you know, 100,000 US dollars, if there's massive downturns in the hobby or the economy, it could drop down in price and you could lose money. But generally speaking, if you're buying sealed booster boxes at launch, there's amazing gains to me and very, very, very safe. But singles, not so much. So if you're an investor and you're thinking, where should I park my money? You know, is this Charizard now going to reach the bottom? I would honestly hang out another 12 months before you make that decision. Wait and see what the PSA populations do on this card. If it nudges north to 50,000 copies, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 12 or 1400 US dollar PSA 10 card. And look, maybe down the track, maybe, you know, once Mega Evolution's out of rotation, maybe when this is in the rear view mirror and PSA populations stagnate, and maybe it stops at 40,000 or 45,000, or who knows, let's say it does. Well, maybe then in a few years, this card will start to rise back up. Maybe then it'll become a 2.5, 3,000 US dollar card. But for the moment, I'd just hold fire on investing in this. Even though it's dipped a little bit, I'd hold fire on investing because there will be more PSA 10 copies hitting the market. The second thing I wanted to talk about, which is really, I suppose, the crux of this video, is why Pokemon booster boxes have stopped moving. Now, before we do that, I did want to give a big shout out to today's video sponsor, which is, of course, the Collector app. It is the one-stop shop. You can check my investing journey down in the content creators section. It is cool. It's just so easy to use. You can put all your sealed, all your singles inside there. You can look at English, Japanese sets. You can look at set analytics. You can see what are the best hits inside a set. How have they been performing? If you're a pro user, you can see so much more data. It is absolutely crazy how helpful this app is from an investing standpoint. You can check your whole portfolio. You can see the gains you've made. It's just the one-stop shop for an investor and a collector. Again, link in the description to download that one. So 3-month trend. Let's just talk about the last 3 months, because there's been a little bit of a stagnation, and including on that is actually a little bit of a dip for some sets. So I think it's the popular ones. It's the big sets that have seemed to have stagnated. So let me talk you through a couple of examples. Destined Rivals has been hovering around the $580 mark for the last 3 months. Like, it just can't push through it. It just can't break through it. In fact, here in Australia, some of the booster box prices have actually pulled back in price a little bit. Phantasmal Flames is another one. In the last 2 months, it sort of ran up, but it's been hovering around that $450 US mark for the last couple of months. And that's when you need to ask yourself with these sets, you know, what's going to force them through the next price point? Just to give you a few more examples, Padair Evolve, which has run up a little bit, but the last few months, same thing. It's stuck around that $500 US mark. Even if we go back to Sword and Shield era, some of the big hitters inside there, like Fusion Strike, that's been up and down, up and down. It'll go just north of $1,000, then it'll dip under $950, then it'll maybe drop to $920, then it goes back up to $1,030. Long story short, it's been hovering around $950 to $1,000 US for like the last 9 months. It needs to find its legs for that next price breakthrough. And even Evolving Skies has been the same. Like, literally the last 9 months or so, 6 months, 9 months, it's been hovering around that $2,500 US mark. You know, it might burst up to 2,650 and we'll see a couple sales around there, and then it'll drop back down to, 2,350, 2,450, 2,500. These big sets, a lot of them have just seemed to have stagnated lately. So why is that? And is there a chance to buy at these price points? I'm going to answer that question very shortly. Before we do though, I just did want to mention that the top sets, or the big sets I should say, those sets that come out of the gate really hot, the sets that people know are good sets, yes, they have stagnated a little bit, but funnily enough, the mid-tier sets, and I just want to go through a couple, the mid-tier sets have actually surged back to life a little bit. They've been running up. Like, here's a few, and like, what makes a good set? What makes a mid-tier set? What makes a poor set? I mean, that's a conversation for another day, so you're just going to have to take my word that these are mid-tier sets, other than probably one of them on here. But Obsidian Flames has ran up from $346 to $396 in the last 3 months. Temporal Forces has gone from $286 to $328. I said one on this list is not a mid-tier set, and that is this one, which is Surging Sparks. It's gone from $246 to $297 in the last 3 months. It's still one of the cheapest booster boxes money can buy you. And in my opinion, look, it's not an S tier set. It's maybe not even an A tier set. Maybe it's a B plus, A minus tier set. But the fact it's one of the cheapest booster boxes you can buy, it just makes no sense. Stellar Crown even has run from $304 to $358 in the last 3 months. So, like, why are some of these mid-tier sets running up? And I think it's a simple answer. And look, maybe it's a little bit more complex than a simple answer, but the biggest component of the simple answer, or the complex answer, I should say, is the fact that, all these sets that are run up really quickly and people have pumped money into them, is they're then going back and going, well, hold on, they're perhaps a little bit expensive. So then they're buying these more affordable sets. Obsidian Flames, Temporal Forces, Surging Sparks, Stellar Crown. They're getting the sales at the moment. They're getting the sales volume because they're more affordable. And people are realizing, hey, they're not bad sets. They're just not your Evolving Skies or Destined Rivals of the world, but they're still quality sets that have some room to appreciate. And people look back on history and they go, yeah, okay, Sun and Moon era, we've seen sets like Team Up absolutely fly and Cosmic Eclipse, but then they're like, you know what, even those mid-tier sets, sets like Celestial Storm, Lost Thunder, etc., they've still run up. Like, they're still well north of $1,500 booster boxes. So people realize that these mid-tier sets can actually appreciate really, really well. So why? And is there some reason, or is there some buying opportunity here? Why have some booster boxes stopped moving? First one is, it is the rapid gains we're seeing. So I think when we see massive appreciation, this is what normally happens, right? A set gets released, then we see rapid gains after it moves out of rotation, then it seems to plateau, and then in the future again, it'll start to run up. And then maybe it'll level off, then it'll start to run up, then it'll level off, then it'll start to run up. So generally speaking, it is a good time to buy when something has stagnated for a while. So I actually think it's a little bit of a buyer's market for a fair few booster boxes at the moment. Now, the rapid gains we normally see after rotation is because, generally speaking, out of rotation, booster boxes have moved into the hands of the general public, so to speak. It's on the secondary market. It's not at your brick and mortar stores. It's not on online stores for sale anymore. It's moved into the secondary market, and that's what causes a run-up. Now, a lot of modern sets, that run-up's happening straight away, like Phantasmal Flames. It's moved from the primary market to the secondary market straight away. And that's why we see those rapid gains. We saw it with Destined Rivals as well, just to give you an example. So why is this happening? Why are some stagnating? Many people have bought heavy. Like, people have bought heavy into this bull market. And maybe there's just not as much cash around at the moment. The second one is the sheer number of products and sets that are being released now. You've got so much more. Like, you go from every era that's coming out, you've got more and more product. You've got more and more booster boxes. So there needs to be the buying market for all of them. Like, there's just so many sets and so many booster boxes now. I suppose the last one is, maybe people are hanging out a little bit at the moment. Like, people are saving their money. Why? Because we've got 30th anniversary and perhaps a Rayquaza-based set around the corner again. So it's almost like the market's pulled back a little bit. And then it's also a little bit seasonal. It is summer at the moment in the Northern Hemisphere and people are holidaying, and spending money elsewhere and enjoying the sun, and that's pretty normal to see some sort of stagnation. So is it a good time to buy? Well, in my opinion, yes, it is. Look, I would maybe wait maybe not much longer, towards definitely after the release of Pitch Black, definitely maybe even a month after the release of Pitch Black might be the perfect time to buy, because I do see some of these sets that have stagnated staying in those places for another month or so. But after that, once we get the 30th anniversary out, I can see a run up for a lot of these sets again. All these sets that have sat dormant for a fair period of time, I think the 30th anniversary is going to bring a lot more money than we expect back into the hobby, and therefore there's going to be some really good plays to be made. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Michael, this is PokeOz, and I'll catch everyone next time.